Hello, my dear friends. I am so happy to welcome you to this series of videos where you will be exploring the new world of whole person healing. Now, mind you, this is not any new age stuff. What you'll be watching in these videos is real hardcore science. Whole person healing describes the integration of present contemporary medicine, science, technology, as well as other practices which have been proven to be effective, and yet they defy a satisfactory scientific explanation. It could well have been named integrative medicine, but the term whole person healing is more humane, more personalized, and it describes an act with an outcome. In these series of videos, we shall be looking at areas where modern medicine has failed. And the reason for this is the uni-dimensional approach to healing, a reductionist approach to understanding the science, oversimplification of things where what is involved is complexity. As a matter of fact, healing is a word that is rarely used by doctors. It is considered to be something new agey, something non-medical, something non-scientific. But that is what a person comes to a doctor for, to be healed. So let us begin the series, and I'm sure you'll be a lot wiser, more accepting, and you will also be, if you are a doctor, you'll be able to guide your practice accordingly. These series of videos are inspired by the proceedings of the first interdisciplinary international conference on whole person healing, which happened between 28th and 30th of March 2003, and they were compiled by the person who was the conference chair, that is Rustam Roy. Dr. Rustam Roy was a very interesting personality. He was born in Ranchi in India and went on to do his PhD in Pennsylvania State University, and he has been associated with that university for the past 65 years. The Newsweek magazine called him a leading contrarian, and we shall see how. He held 5 professorships, 3 for various departments in the Pennsylvania State University, 1 in the Arizona State University, and 1 in Arizona University. He was also a science policy maker. He was with the think tank Brookings Institute as a fellow, and then later he was also an advisor to the government for science policy. He promoted interdisciplinary and integrative learning in all fields. So even though he was a material scientist, he had a lot to do with whole person healing and devoted considerable time and wrote a lot of books, including on theology. A few words about me. My name is Ashok Rajguru. I am a fellow of the British Institute of Homeopathy, and I also serve as an instructor. I have been a UK registered homeopath. I am a Dr. Batch Foundation registered practitioner. I come with a background in aviation, and I have been a former aviation human factors instructor. Human factors essentially looks at why accidents happen in aviation. An aircraft represents the pinnacle of progress of humankind. Most leading edge technologies are employed there, and highly skilled persons operate aeroplanes, repair aeroplanes, and maintain aeroplanes, and yet we end up with crashes and disasters. The root cause of that actually lies in the mind of the people doing these tasks and not simply negligence. So that gave me a very good insight into the human nature, both as a society, as a group, as well as individual. Currently, I am a founder and director of Sahana Vavatu Educators and Counselors LLP, which is an ISO 9001-2015 certified company. The objectives of this first video are to understand the limits of contemporary medical practice. We must understand that current medical practice is neither a miracle It has come into being after years of research and hard work of scientists as well as clinicians. But still it has got many limitations, and we shall just see why those limitations are restricting further progress. This will also address why medicines are failing us, because medicines ultimately are a product of the current understanding of medical practice. Dr. Rustam Roy, as we saw, was a person who believed in interdisciplinary studies, and that is what is the need of the hour. These series of videos will tell us where we are going wrong and where it is possible to correct our course. So we shall be doing a root cause analysis just to find out why things are so bad. In modern times, why are we not getting the medical help that we are supposed to be getting in the 21st century? If we look at acute infectious disease, we are told that modern medicine is very effective in dealing with that. But the real story is that influenza, the SARS, the MERS, HIV, AIDS, human papilloma virus, and now the COVID-19 are all actually incurable. So far, we have no cure for that. So we can't say that modern medicine is excellent at acute infectious disease. There are serious limitations, and such a statement would not be the truth. What about non-infectious disease? Things which do not have an external pathogen, those which we tend to term as chronic. Here is a short list of the biggest killers of this century: cancer, diabetes, heart disease. Even though Alzheimer's may not kill, but still it's a disease for which we do not have a cure. And obesity. This is the state in 21st century, and we are already 20 years into this new modern century, and there are a lot more expectations. And all we get as an answer is, sorry, no cure for any of these largest killers. If we have to take a look at the root cause of all this, we can sum it up in one single word, and that is reductionism. Now, what exactly is reductionism? It is reducing biology to molecular interactions. Whether you take up a book of pharmacology or you take up a book of pathology, everywhere the explanation goes down to the molecular interactions. So we have reduced molecular biology to simple chemistry and physics. Why that is so, we shall see as we progress through these series of videos. And the problem is that we fail to see life systems as complex systems. Complex systems are non-linear. They don't just depend upon the constituents. They depend upon the networks and the way those networks behave and change the behavior of every living organism, and in fact the environment in which the organism is living. First of all, one of the major causes of the failure of modern day medicines or the medical system is that there is emphasis on a single factor and a singular target. For example, we consider disease to be caused by a particular pathogen, whether it's a virus or it's a bacteria or anything else, and hence there is a singular target for that. Once the focus is on a singular factor, then the human body is just considered as a collection of components, and those components are the different organs. Each disease therefore has a singular target for treatment, and the disease is the main focus. The person affected by it is lost focus of. That is real sorry state of affairs. On the contrary, it should be the person who is suffering the disease or ill health who should be the center of focus and not the molecules. The next point that comes into picture for the reason that the medical system is failing to give us the results that we expect is its emphasis on homeostasis. Homeostasis can be described as the ability of the body to bring back balance. An excellent concept, and that's how we remain healthy most of the time. However, if that becomes the center of focus and it is overemphasized, then what happens is that although it is the body's ability to maintain stability, we end up with the conception that illness is the same as failed homeostasis, and a normal condition is equated to a set parameter. It could be the contents of your blood that you find in a blood work, or it could be a certain pressure, for example, your blood pressure. So these parameters are derived statistically to define a normal condition, and a deviation from that is considered to be an illness, and the cause of that is a failed homeostasis. Hence, the treatment is to get the parameter right. This applies to all the conditions that we see, whether they are hypothyroidism, hypokalemia, diabetes. The whole aim is to get a normal condition, and that normal is defined by a parameter. It fails to look at dynamic stability of the body, which is inherent in the way our body functions. For example, a normal heartbeat may display complex or non-linear dynamics. As a matter of fact, the best way to describe that would be through a mathematical approach of deterministic chaos. And it is still not clear whether the heartbeat series of a healthy or a diseased heart are chaotic or stochastic, or whether cardiac chaos represents normal or abnormal behavior. So there is still such a lack of understanding that we are at a loss to understand how we can equate one particular parameter with a particular condition of the body. Pavlov, whom you must be recalling, the person who did the experiments on dogs and is famous for the Pavlovian response, he had said that health is the same as equilibrium with surrounding nature. So let's remember that health is the ability to meet changes in the surrounding environment. If we look at it that way, I think we will be able to get a better understanding of why medicine is failing us today. Another offshoot of reductionism or a reductionist attitude is additive treatment. Each problem is partitioned and it is addressed individually. So you need a pill for high blood pressure, you need a pill for arrhythmia, you need a pill for a low hemoglobin blood count, and the list goes on. As a matter of fact, 35% of the aging population today is on 5 or more prescription medicines. That is in addition to all the supplements, the vitamin supplements, the calcium supplements. So ultimately a person lands up gobbling 20 to 30 pills a day. Additive treatment actually overlooks the treatment interactions. How does one pill interact with the other? Very little medical literature is available on that. Also, there is a complex interplay between disease and treatment. Disease is the body's expression of an imbalance, and the treatment is an effort to correct it. But it is not just a simple thermostat which keeps the temperature of your room in a heated room or an air-conditioned room or a refrigerator at a particular temperature. There is a complex interplay between the disease and treatment. That includes psychological elements, that includes factors such as social positions of the person. And there are so many other stress factors which affect the person individually and differently, and they are not taken care in this additive treatment. Also, additive treatment assumes that body or the life system is not non-linear. It just assumes it is linear. There is a simple cause and effect that ties the two things together. If we are having the ability to understand this and move away from that model, then we can expect fantastic results in medicine today. Another issue that comes up is that disease is now being studied with more focus on the smallest particle at the atomic and molecular level. And therefore, it has moved away from the human being into what we call as in vivo studies, animal models. And that is even further fine-tuned by doing in vitro studies, which is a laboratory experiment in a test tube. Even that has now been perfected because we are able to work with molecules with computer simulation. This computer modeling or in vitro or in vivo studies are important in their own right, but they do not lead us to a better health system. Because unfortunately, in all these things, the person is the one who counts least. If we could reverse that arrow, after having gone through all these stages, then we will be able to get the individual person into focus again. So what is the way forward? The way forward is integration. We need everything. We need inputs from molecular biology. We need inputs from pharmacology. There is a tremendous amount of high-class research available in these fields. But we also need to integrate it, as we say in mathematics. We need to integrate between these two limits, the bio, psycho, social environment of the person. And we must be able to have a humanistic approach to the person. There is no measure of suffering. There is no meter available for pain. There is no input available to the medical science to find out about the biopsychosocial factors that decide not only just contracting the disease, but the progress of disease. Just take, for example, the present COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic that the whole world is going through. If you search the literature in medical journals for the past 6 months or even earlier, when we had SARS and MERS and the mad cow disease and all that, very little is available on the constitution of the person. All we have is the age groups or the demography. What about the psychology? What is setting a person to be more susceptible to one disease and not the other? Also lacking is the humanist in this whole equation, who must be brought back. In the videos that will follow, we will see that there are many approaches available and they are proven, tested and found effective. Sadly, there is no integration. What we need is this big equation symbol over here which says integrate within these limits. That brings us to the end of this first video. In the next video, we shall look at the roots of reductionism in medicine. When we talk about the reductionist attitude, where does it come from? And why is it difficult to shed? So thank you very much for your attention and bye-bye.